strip of Surfers Paradise, a luxury hotel, now the centre of a tragedy.
There was like a few police cars, but we didn't really know what was going on.
It was just sirens on the street. No, I didn't really know anything that was happening.
Paramedics were called to Meriton Suites just before 11 last night, arriving to find a 40-year-old woman in cardiac arrest.
Required specialist care, and despite all attempts, was declared deceased on scene.
Just moments prior, she was partying with 6 others, taking a deadly cocktail of illicit drugs, thought to be ketamine, fantasy and GHB.
The toxicology report will obviously be performed by QPS.
4 others were treated at the scene, while 2 43-year-old women were taken to hospital in critical conditions.
Not breathing for themselves. So ambulance obviously had to provide supplemental oxygen.
The tragedy has prompted another reminder from frustrated paramedics who say they're responding to these sorts of incidents involving party drugs on a daily basis.
I won't sugarcoat it. As I said, we've spoken about this 2 weeks ago. They will stop you from breathing. They will render you unconscious. And if you don't get specialist care, you will die.
Yeah, it's always sad when you hear about it.
Especially for the family losing a loved one at Easter. It's understood the woman who died had only just turned 40, celebrating her birthday just days earlier. Her 2 friends tonight remain here at the Gold Coast University Hospital. One is in a stable condition, the other is still critical in the intensive care unit.
Welcome back to Weekend Sunrise. The Royals are expected to mark Easter Sunday in the UK at Windsor Castle.
It is expected to be King Charles' first public appearance since he announced he had cancer in January. And Daily Mirror Associate Editor Russell Myers joins us now. Hi Russell, so what's the latest on King Charles' recovery?
Well, it's good news. Good morning to both of you and happy Easter. And, King Charles expected here in the UK tomorrow for Easter Sunday to lead the royal family on the walk to St George's Chapel. Many a royal occasion have been hosted there, and I think this is good news for King Charles because we've seen him out and about, whether it's going to his cancer treatment appointments in London or a smattering of appointments at Buckingham Palace, but we haven't really seen him in the flesh for quite a while. And, with all that's going on in the royal family, big tumultuous time for the firm. Princess of Wales obviously announcing her cancer diagnosis a few days ago, and this will be good news to sort of give a sense of unity and stability for the royal family.
We have seen him in the flesh, but not really up close and not moving pictures either. We saw him record that message for that service last week. And the King and Queen are expected to sit apart, Russell. What's that about?
Well, it's interesting, this one, because I don't think, we're not in the social distancing era anymore, but there is definitely a scaled down version of the congregation. Charles has not been doing big public events. He's met a couple of people here and there at Buckingham Palace, and this is to reduce the risk of infection. So it's very important to him, on the one hand, remain to be seen, give that sense of, as I said, unity and stability for the monarchy, but also, he's still undergoing this cancer treatment. He did look a bit red around the eyes in the latest photo we saw him, and that's par for the course, isn't it? He's still undergoing this treatment, but I think it's all about his rest and recovery. But it will be great to see him tomorrow.
But presumably they live together, though, together the rest of the time. Isn't that strange?
Listen, I think it's all about sort of scaling down the risk for him, and they might be set a little bit apart, but I don't think they'll be at opposite ends of the chapel or anything.
Right, okay.
You're giving Russell a grilling this morning.
Well, no, I'm just everything about the royal family at the moment. I'm obsessed with all of the details.
Which is fair and reasonable. So, Russell, this service, this scaled down service, as you call it, what else do we know about it and who else is likely to attend?
Well, we definitely know who won't be attending. That's the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children. Of course, after Kate's statement a couple of weeks ago, we know that they're taking a period out for the Easter holidays. And of course, the Princess of Wales saying that she won't be returning to duties anytime soon, or until certainly she's rested and recovered from her cancer treatment. But we can expect the sort of old stalwarts, of course, Princess Anne, Sir Timothy Lawrence, and no doubt the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. Big questions over whether Prince Andrew will make an appearance, because we did see see him at King Constantine's memorial, and he made all the headlines for the wrong reason, but very much centred on the king returning to duties and with Camilla by his side. So, but certainly Prince Andrew has done things like this in the past, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I feel like Prince Andrew slipped into that service because no one else was looking. So Charles was away, William was away. Well, I can turn up to this one and no one will even know.
I'll get away with this one.
Look, we cannot wait to see what unfolds this Easter. Russell, thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Sunrise.
Thanks, guys.
Well, shifting our focus now to Senegal, where the newly elected president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has pledged humility and transparency in governance in the West African nation. But it was the two first ladies, really, who grabbed the eyeballs. One president, two first ladies, President-elect Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who has two wives, Marie Khone Faye and Absa Faye. Well, they will be Senegal's first polygamous president. This video apparently showing two wives of Bassirou Diomaye Faye together at an event is going viral on social media. Now, polygamy is common in Senegal, especially among his ethnic group, the Sera. Faye has 4 children with his first wife. The president-elect married his second wife, who lives and works in France, last year. 44-year-old Bassirou Faye contested the presidential election for the first time and secured over 50% of the vote, while Macky Sall's hand-picked successor, Amadou Ba, secured 35% of votes. Before becoming president, Faye had only ever run for mayor of his hometown, Ndiaganao. Faye was relatively an unknown figure outside his party till a few months ago. For all the latest news, download the WeOn app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Indonesia's president-elect Prabowo Subianto is all set to visit China next week. The former general, who will take office in October after his sweeping victory last week, has been invited by President Xi Jinping for a 3-day visit to China. Now, this will be Prabowo's first visit to one of Jakarta's key trading partners since his election. The 72-year-old leader of the right-wing nationalist party was officially confirmed by the Election Commission as the winner of the Indonesian presidential election with over 58% of votes. However, his two rivals, Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo, have asked the Constitutional Court to rerun the poll by the end of April and disqualify him from the ballot. The losing candidates have accused the outgoing president, Joko Widodo, of interfering in the elections by using state apparatus to support Prabowo Subianto. However, the outgoing president, Denies, denies these accusations. Previously, the former Special Forces General, Prabowo Subianto, has been accused of playing a role in anti-Chinese riots that killed more than 1,000 people in 1998. Although Indonesia is not one of the countries that has challenged China's territorial claims to most of the South China Sea, the two countries have their own disputes over waters of the Natuna Islands. This area falls within Indonesia's exclusive economic zone, which overlaps with waters that are included in the 9-dash line that forms the basis of China's sweeping claims. However, Beijing has built a strong relationship with Jakarta under Joko Widodo's leadership. Xi Jinping and Widodo have met frequently over the past 10 years and worked on projects including building the high-speed rail line linking Jakarta with Bandung in West Java, which opened last year. China is the largest trading partner and the second largest foreign investor in Indonesia. For all the latest news, download the WeOn app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
So the ongoing Israel-Gaza war is having implications way beyond the borders of the Palestinian territories. At the Pakistan's Institute of Business Administration, protests were witnessed on the 27th of March by a group of students against their recruiter Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola had in fact come to the IBA campus for its recruitment drive, but the students actually chose to walk out their potential recruiter, accusing it of being complicit in what is happening to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip for over 6 months. This happened after the recruiters asked for a minute-long silence in respect of all the Palestinians who had been massacred by the Israelis in the Gaza Strip. The step is crucial because it comes at a time when Pakistan's economy is in doldrums. The foreign reserves are running low, inflation is high, wages are declining and people are struggling to make ends meet. And in this kind of a scenario, an opportunity to work with a brand such as Coca-Cola could prove to be beneficial, but the students decided to stick to their principles and they chose to boycott Coca-Cola. Even before the event, the students had in fact sent mails to the administration against the beverage company. Following the boycott of the IBA, Coca-Cola reportedly called off its recruitment drive at another university. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
Well, earlier we brought you some breaking news, a developing situation taking place in the Netherlands. We can bring you an update to that now. These are live pictures from the scene. This is the town of Ede in the Netherlands, where multiple people have been held hostage in a building in that town. It's in central Netherlands. Several special police units have been deployed to the scene. Around 150 homes have been evacuated nearby. The latest update from the police was that there was no indication of a terrorist motive, but as you can see there, heavy police presence, still very much a developing situation. I'm not sure whether the hostages remain inside that building. It appears to be a cafe or not, but we'll bring you updates to it as and when we can.
Face to face. During the many months of protest, never have the two sides so ideologically far apart been so close.
It's a pretty extraordinary moment here, the two sides meeting for the first time. Those protesters over there, they've objected to the phrase from the river to the sea. They see that as anti-Semitic. They've had it chanted back at them. 6 months into these protests starting, there's still lots of people, there's lots of feelings on both sides showing for the first time as they meet.
The government's counter-extremism czar had previously said that London had become a no-go zone for Jews during pro-Palestinian marches, a view echoed by the small number of counter-protesters here.
Someone from over there gesticulated like that to him, and that is terrifying. So I think all these guys here will be terrified to go home wearing their flags because they might be set upon. No one from our side wants to have any violence towards the other group. We just want to have our voices heard and our hostages to be freed.
There was little sympathy for that from those we spoke to on the other side.
They have the right to peaceful protest too.
No.
Why not?
There's a genocide.
No, because there's a genocide. They're murderers.
Anyone who's complicit, anyone who's silent is complicit.
That's correct.
This was the 11th march organised by the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. They had predicted that hundreds of thousands would come. If it didn't meet those numbers, that may be because the government has, over the months, come to embrace the positions held by those marching on an immediate ceasefire and on getting much more aid to Gaza. That's led some to question whether the marches, which have cost more than £30 million to police, are a good use of resources.
Does it need a protest like this when the British government wants the same thing, more or less?
Well, unfortunately, I wish that were the case, and it is true there's a shift in the government position. That is because of popular pressure, so that emboldens people to keep marching and protesting. But the government position at the moment is to support a temporary pause, and the government position at the moment is to continue selling arms to Israel.
It wasn't entirely peaceful, but incidents like this were rare. It's also a strange sort of public protest where both sides say they agree with the government on the need for a ceasefire and the designation of Hamas as a terrorist organisation. But both sides have vowed to continue protesting. Today, visceral confirmation of how deep the divisions really are. Tom Cheshire, Sky News, Central London.
You are watching The Context. It's time for our weekly segment, AI Decoded. Welcome to AI Decoded, that time of the week when we look in depth at some of the most eye-catching stories from the world of artificial intelligence. First, using AI being in therapy, we'll show how NHS England are using AI chatbots to help their growing waiting list for mental health support. And like here in the Guardian newspaper, we'll ask whether a chatbot is really equipped to tackle complex emotional needs. Next up, Forbes asks, could AI-powered genital scans actually become a thing? A new startup has launched a sexual wellness tool for women, and it's encouraging users to submit photos of their partner's private parts. The company claim they patented AI wizardry and can analyse images of male genitalia for the presence of common sexually transmitted infections. The Daily Dot shows one man's solution for job interviews. A tech CEO posted a TikTok showing him using an AI clone during a mock job interview. We'll show you a bit of that in a moment. And in the Hollywood Reporter, Mamma Mia musical star Sarah Poyser said in a social media post that artificial intelligence has replaced her for a BBC production. She shared a message from an unidentified production company which said they had the approval from the BBC to use an AI-generated voice, so they no longer needed her talent. Well, the BBC has responded by saying, in these very particular circumstances and with the family's wishes in mind, we have agreed to use AI for a brief section to recreate a voice which can now no longer be heard. This will be clearly labelled within the film. And finally, in The Telegraph, could AI come up with the perfect pint? According to a recent study made, artificial intelligence is, well, made a beer tastier than normal. Researchers trained a computer system to take average existing beers and elevate them to an elite drink after knowing exactly what chemicals to add. With me is Priya Lakhani, CEO of Century Tech, artificial intelligence company that develops AI-powered learning tools for schools. Great to see you. You're standing by, you're ready for us. First though, just want to show you this just before we begin and get your thoughts on it. It's basically a look at the potential use of AI in therapy. As waiting lists for NHS mental health support continue to grow, a new wave of startups building AI chatbot solutions. They're hoping to help. Our reporter, Hannah Carpel, has more.
How would you feel about opening up to a chatbot? Well, millions of people now do in what's known as AI therapy. Across England, the NHS is using the software to help tackle their growing waiting list for mental health support. One of the companies helping them is Limbic, who work with a third of NHS talking therapies in England.
We've taken this data with consent from the NHS, trained it to be able to identify with very high accuracy what your primary problems are. We're able to take your goal for therapy, what your primary issues that you want to really focus on during therapy are, through this highly empathetic 24/7 always on chatbot.
But can we trust AI as therapy?
The first thing that we need to know is how secure the data is. But we also need to know, of course, that there is patient benefit. You need to know that this is better than doing something else, or better at least than doing nothing. Rather than having chatbots replace therapists, I think the idea of having them blended together is probably initially a way of reducing the number of sessions that you need.
Some patients are more comfortable talking to a chatbot.
Our AI was inherently non-judgmental. It did not have a race or a gender, so it could not clash with the race or gender of the individual seeking support.
As more of us talk to the AI, its database and understanding of communities will grow. So that means more reliance on artificial intelligence in our healthcare. Hannah Carpel, BBC News.
So, interesting issue there. Similar story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, well, the inside pages. He checks in on me more than my friends and family. To quote there, can AI therapists do better than the real thing? Priya, I'm going to ask you that question. What do you make of it?
Well,
That's a really big question. I think that AI can serve as an addition to conventional therapy and it can augment it. But what's really, really interesting is what we just saw there with Limbic, that the NHS has now deployed across many, many parts of the NHS in terms of its Talking Therapies programme, is very, very different to what's in the Guardian article, okay,
Right.
and what the Guardian focuses on. And it's really, really important to distinguish between this. Firstly, let's just give a bit of context to our audience, right? Demand for therapy is really, really high. So waiting list, you've got 20,000 people in the UK that are off work every month for mental ill health. A quarter of patients seeking treatment wait more than 90 days, and about half of them deteriorate within that time. I know we're a global programme, so I pulled out just a couple of stats just to tell people in the audience how severe this is. So worldwide, about 12 billion work days, 12 billion, are lost every single year due to depression and anxiety, and the pandemic triggered a 25% increase in general anxiety and depression. So this is obviously a really big problem. It's caught governments unprepared, right? They only spend about 2% of their health budgets on mental health. And so how can AI help is the question. So what we saw from the segment there was actually an app that has got medical device status, right, when it comes to, it's regulated, right? That device there it's been proven to reduce admin time and clinical workload, right, by about 50,000 clinical hours, the CEO has said. It's a support tool, it helps to diagnose mental health, and then the point is it augments the process. So then you've got a clinician, you've got an expert that you can then see.
Got you. That's the crucial thing.
That's there.
Yeah.
The Guardian, very, very quickly,
Yes.
is about the tens of thousands of apps that are often unregulated.
Right. So
okay.
this is the difference.
Chatbot friends, where they've fine-tuned an app using GPT, for example, okay, and people are finding solace in speaking to these apps. But there are all sorts of issues with them. So firstly, you know, is your privacy maintained when you're talking to these apps? And actually there were some sweeping reviews, and actually the Mozilla Foundation found that they looked at 32 popular mental health apps and found 19 of them were failing to safeguard user privacy. And then psychologists make this point that if we end up in a world, Lewis, where your best friend is actually on your app and you're going to this best friend AI to talk to them, even about anxiety and depression, which, by the way, there are so many benefits of that in many ways. People who are very lonely, who have a stigma when they think there's a stigma of seeking therapy, might go to the app. The problem is that you might be exacerbating the fact that some people won't then relate to humans at all, because humans are chaotic and a bit messy. So yeah, the story goes into that, but they're very, very different things. One sort of, it's not regulated, and I think that's what the audience have to be very, very clear about.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
But then you have those regulated apps.
Yeah, thank you very much for making that point clear. Very, very important. Next story, an AI app claiming to detect STIs from photos of genitals is a privacy disaster, from Forbes there.
Shall I tell you about this app?
This one.
The problem with this app is that if you go to the website, it's called Calmara, okay, Calmara. It encourages someone who's about to get into an intimate situation. So you're in that environment, and for the first time maybe, and you know, things are heating up. So sort of whip out your smartphone and
Glad you said smartphone.
and whatever, and take a picture of male genitalia, and to see if there's an STI. Now, I think the problem is there, right? STIs are a massive problem. 1 million pregnant women estimated to be infected with syphilis in 2016. There were 350,000 adverse birth outcomes. There's all sorts of problems with HPV. So this is clearly a problem that needs to be solved. AI can help. So they use essentially computer vision techniques, and it's an AI model called segmentation, where you look at, for example, skin, and you try and find in the pixels of a digital image an anomaly, right? So if you're looking for a skin lesion, okay? And so the AI technology can absolutely help, but the problem is that, firstly, are people posting images into this app where there might be security and privacy concerns? I started reading it and thinking, actually, this is potentially a very good use of machine learning and AI. But then I started reading about the company, and in the Forbes article, they claimed that the company itself said that it had some elite academic partnerships that was then removed from their website once Forbes started probing into it. The big universities have claimed that they don't have a partnership with the company. So you can start to see now where apps are out there, and unless there's a lot of transparency about how they're working, where the data is going, is there independent validation of the data sets, and then the model, the AI model being performance, and all of these things, it casts doubt upon the AI app's claims. So for the audience, the clear thing here is before submitting certain photographs, or any photographs, I would say, into these apps, you need to
private parts privacy nightmare.
You know, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know the research I did for that piece just there. I read the paper and saw all the images. So
okay, all right. I'm not going to ask you any more about that. Let's go to the Daily Dot. And actually, just before you talk about it, let's just take a look at this video.
Hi Ian, how are you? Where are you calling from today?
I'm doing great, thanks, and I'm in London. I've been looking forward to discussing this opportunity with you today.
Great stuff. If it's okay with you, I'd like to dive straight into it. Can you tell me about a product that you've launched that you're proud of and why?
Certainly. One of the products I'm most proud of is a mobile app that we designed to streamline online shopping for customers. It integrated AI-driven recommendations and a highly intuitive UI.
So that's a man on his laptop with an AI version of himself doing a mock interview.
That's going to be us. We're going to be replaced in the future.
That's incredible.
Yeah, the app claims that 80% of people who use that app are hired. It's really interesting. Lots of people use ChatGPT to help write their resumes and cover letters. Some would say that's reasonably smart. About 11% are denied the job when the employer finds out they're using it. I think in some ways, look, Lewis, it can level the playing field for people who may struggle with writing applications. I mean, the cloning of the interview, I've got a real problem with that because you can misrepresent. The AI clone could misrepresent your capabilities, your personality, your sort of behavioural skill set. Lots of companies have cultural interviews, we do, to ensure that culturally you fit, whereas if it's a clone, you know, you're not going to get that from the person. So you can see all sorts of problems with that, but I thought that was great that you had the video there because that's where this is potentially going.
Amazing. And a familiar theme coming up next. AI replaces Mamma Mia musical star for a BBC production. What's going on here?
Yeah, look, I'm really glad actually you added a piece to what was in this story where the BBC have said in a statement that they're actually trying to replace a voice actually that no longer exists. And I think that context is really important. But in the story, it's really talking about the significant threat to employment in this sector, for example, voiceovers. Now, SAG-AFTRA had a bit of an update a few days ago, so they negotiated and ratified actually the agreement when it comes to voiceover actors. And with voiceover actors, they've included, for example, if you're going to say that the voiceover, you know, that it's a voice actor, it has to be a human being. People will be remunerated if they're the voiceover and it's translated into a different language. And the article points to actually in the UK, maybe we should be copying our friends overseas, and there ought to be some sort of union agreement potentially for artists to protect them, because clearly it lowers cost of production. There's less recording required, so there are going to be production companies in the future that aren't in this context using AI to replace a voice that no longer exists, but it's just going to do it because it's simply cheaper.
Fascinating. Right, something a bit lighter to finish. Beer, this is in the Telegraph, beer made by artificial intelligence tastes better than a normal pint, study suggests.
Yeah, so they've taken over 5 years, expert taste panels. So imagine the data now, this is the important thing. Expert taste panels, so data, 50 criteria by 15 experts, tasting about 250 beers, then you've got 180,000 reviews. So you can imagine all these data sets, right? And what they've done is then they've looked at lab analyses of the chemical composition of the beers, and the AI essentially just suggests alterations or amendments to make the beer tastier, and they've actually managed to do that. I'm wondering where our drink is now, producer. I was thinking we would do a live tasting. I mean, what's going on?
Some samples.
So, Santo, to those who are going to enjoy this new beer, and you know, it's a new technology, and why not use it? Although some people will always just want that fully 100% human crafted beer.
Wow, no, this is definitely AI I can get on board with. Definitely found that. Right, we are out of time. Priya, brilliant stuff. Thank you so much.